There just seemed to be one thing after the other.
Meet the Christchurch MP preparing to step away from the front line of politics.
You do what the Prime Minister asks.
Megan Woods is leaving Wigram and opens up about the pressures.
Do I think we got everything perfect? No.
How have you managed to cope with the abuse that goes with the job? Because you do get abused. She also responds to rumours about running for mayor of Christchurch. And what prompted this response?
No. I would rather peel the skin from my body.
Let's meet for coffee with Megan Woods, proudly brought to you by Black and White Coffee Cartel, making delicious slices and fabulous coffee across all of their Canterbury and Auckland cafes. Dr. Megan Woods, welcome to Black and White Coffee Cartel Wigram. How are you?
I'm great, and thank you so much for having me here. What a civilised way to do an interview with coffee.
Well, I've been thinking about this. We've been meaning to do a coffee since about 2017 when we first made into government. I said, well, let's do a coffee and have a girls catch up, but we never made it happen.
And now we are, with cameras all around us.
I know, just to make it feel really nice and intimate. But thanks for your time. Doctor, by the way, a doctor in what, for people who don't know?
I'm not a doctor that can make you better. My doctorate, or my PhD, is in New Zealand history.
What made you do that?
So I went to university not intending to do it. I'd done history all through school, and like many people my age, I'm in my 50s now, the history we did at school was Tudor and Stuart Britain, smattering in New Zealand history, but I took a couple of New Zealand history papers in my first and second years. Absolutely fell in love with it, and I decided that that's what I wanted to do, and I'm really fortunate, I think, and one of the reasons why I was so proud in government that we were able to introduce New Zealand history into the school curriculum. I think it's such an important thing for New Zealanders to understand their past.
Talk to me about your childhood, just briefly. That sounded like a psychologist, didn't it?
It did.
When you were a little girl, did you have aspirations or dreams perhaps of being a Prime Minister or being a mayor or...
Nothing like that, no. I grew up in Christchurch, in South Christchurch. I had probably what you'd look back now and see as a bit of an idyllic childhood in the 70s and 80s.
Who didn't? The 80s were good.
Exactly. Well, I mean, one of the big things is everyone wasn't carrying a camera and a video camera around in their pocket, and we didn't have social media. And I often think now, imagine being a kid growing up in that environment. So difficult, but no, look, I mean, even when I went to university, I wasn't planning on being a politician. It's something that happened along the way.
So, tell me then, when did you think, right, I want to be in politics? Because you went for Mayor of Christchurch years ago. What year was that?
So that would have been 2007.
It's an 11th hour paper that got sent to councillors last night at 8:09 and asked to make a decision 11 hours later.
Yeah, 2000, and who got it in the end? I can't remember.
That was when Bob Parker was elected. It was the end of Gary Moore, the end of his mayoralty.
Right.
So I got involved in politics when I was at university. I started volunteering for my local MP, who was Jim Anderson, and working on his campaigns, and that was in the Alliance in those days, and helping out, delivering the leaflets and making the phone calls and finding the billboard sites. Absolutely loved it. Carried on doing that. Then I think it was in 2004. We needed a candidate for Spraden Heathcote, and I lived in that area for the community board. And Jim said to me, "Well, I reckon you should stand, Megan." I was, I must have been in my, I would have been just turned 30 at that point. We need a candidate. Are you interested in standing? I was like, I don't know. And he was like, go on, you'd be really good. So I did it, and I loved it. It was such a great experience.
What did you love about it?
Getting out, speaking to the community, realising that the smallest decisions that you can make, like where a bus stop's going to go or where yellow lines are, make a huge difference on people's lives. And the ability to actually listen to people and bring about change, no matter how big or small, that can actually positively impact people's lives was hugely important. And Jim just encouraged me from there. Like, he encouraged me then to stand in Christchurch Central for the Progressive Party, which I did.
The Progressive Party?
Yeah.
That's a blast from the past.
Totally.
How long did that last? Was that Jim's party?
Yeah, that was Jim's
How long
party.
did that last for?
So that was after the Alliance, until Jim retired. So that was a good number of years. Yeah, so I was a member of the Progressive Party when I stood for the mayoralty as well. So I wasn't a Labour candidate then. I was a member of the Progressive Party, and I was hugely lucky that Jim really encouraged me. He really mentored me and put a lot of time into making sure that I understood what a job of an MP would be and what the skills needed, and something that I've been determined to do as an MP as well. And one of the reasons I've made the decision not to stand this time and to work with Dominic Janczyk, who's our candidate, to make sure that he understands inside out what the job of an MP is and have that mentorship. I think it's hugely important that politicians succession plan and put the effort into bringing younger people through. He's in his 30s like I was when I became the MP, so I think it's time for me to bring someone like that through.
I often think about Jimmy, and I was fortunate enough to interview him about 2 years before he passed.
Okay.
And
Was it about the cathedral?
Yes, funny enough it was.
Why are you so obsessed with this?
I don't think I'm obsessed. I come from a city, Auckland, dare I say it. Don't say it very loudly in Christchurch.
Don't say that.
Yeah.
I look back now with a great sense of fondness for the way he handled himself.
Yeah.
There was a great sense of calmness that I don't think we see in politics anymore.
Absolutely.
In terms of just being quite reasonable. Even if you didn't agree with his politics, you'd want to shake his hand and have a cup of tea with him. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely, and I mean Jim, absolutely calm, but one of the most steely and courageous politicians that I've ever known as well. Unflinching in his principles, but absolutely willing to compromise if it was in line with his principles. I remember as a young candidate, must have been in the 2004 election, or 2005 it would have been, election, going with him to a meeting with Federated Farmers before he was Minister of Agriculture, and not seen as natural allies. Walked in and you could feel the frostiness in the room to start with. By the time we left that meeting an hour later, absolutely on board, and you could just see the way in which he talked to them, he listened, he showed where he was willing to compromise, where he wasn't compromising his principles, and it was a huge education really, and how it was that you can be effective, you can stick tight to your beliefs, but you can bring people with you.
Do you worry in politics we've lost a bit of that?
Totally. I mean,
Why have we lost that?
And
it is more toxic now than it's ever been.
I mean,
or are people just more passionate?
No, I don't think. I think people have always been passionate. I think New Zealanders care deeply about their community. I think that what we've seen is a polarisation in New Zealand and around the world. It's not just here. It's like we can't like someone we don't agree with. It seems to be now. I mean, I think that I think it's good, and I mean, I try and make sure that I have contact with people who don't think the same politically as me. It's good to be exposed to a range of different views. It doesn't mean you have to agree with them, but it doesn't mean they're terrible people where you can't be friends and you can't like them. And I think we're losing that, and I think online is really showing that we're seeing that kind of behaviour. It's so black and white. It's either you're for them or you're against them. There's no kind of nuance in between. Or the ability to talk about it. Why don't we agree? Because actually we could learn from each other if we could have that conversation.
Since you brought it up earlier, I was going to talk about later, but online and the abuse. You cop it.
Yep.
I occasionally cop it. It's not pleasant. I don't think anybody really gets used to it. But how have you managed to cope with the abuse that goes with a job? Because you do get abused.
Yeah, and look, I mean, some of it's orchestrated, that it is designed to try and, people not to want to go online, not to want to comment, to keep people away and to discourage people. I have a huge concern that it will keep particularly young women out of politics, that kind of behaviour, and that is a real concern I have. Where I do get angry about it, is where we've seen orchestrated campaigns coming from within political parties. So we saw that with the case that Sarah Templeton brought, and that was a group of young nats.
Yeah, it wasn't amazing how I really thought good on her when she managed to get that court order.
Totally.
And go after them and expose them.
Absolutely.
I mean, they were vile, they were off.
Absolutely. And when it's orchestrated within a political party now, I think they probably were doing it without anyone else in the party knowing. But I think there has to be zero tolerance within political parties for anyone associated with their organisation doing this kind of stuff. Look, you have to ignore it. It's not pleasant. But I also know that a lot of the accounts aren't even real. You click on a lot of these accounts and they're not real people. I'm more than willing to debate. I'm more than willing to disagree. But I won't tolerate people abusing other people on my page, because I mean, just the way some of the other commentators are dealt with.
That they think they can say things what they like. Though.
It's kind of like you're coming into my lounge room for a conversation. There's some rules, there's some standards.
I agree.
It's like
we can always agree to disagree, but you don't have to, go down that vile road. Believe me,
totally.
I used to get it all the time. Not so much now for some reason. Maybe I've blocked them all. I want to talk about. I remember when the Labour government got into power in 2017, as you said before off air, and I gave you a call to say congratulations, and I remember you were excited, but there was a sense of, shit, what the hell am I doing? Do you remember that call?
Absolutely.
I was actually driving to the bridle path, not that I do that anymore. When you look back at that time, what did you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's what you work for all the time you're in opposition to get into government, and I think, everyone does it because it's being in government where you can make changes. It was exciting, what we could, just looking forward to what we could achieve, not knowing what lay ahead of us, but it was excitement, but of course, and I think everyone thinks, oh my goodness, what do I do next? And we had some amazing people working with us as we came into government.
You were a minister pretty much straight away, weren't you?
I was, yes, straight away.
What were your portfolios?
The energy, research, science and innovation were my portfolios then, I think.
What did you enjoy the most out of all the ministerial portfolios you were given? Because as I was saying to...
And EQC and Greater Christchurch Regeneration.
How can we forget?
How could I forget those? Yes.
I was saying to Nellie, your press secretary, who's my former producer, yes, she's looking at me sideways now because we're talking about her, and I remember saying to her, and she agreed with me, when you were a minister, it was almost like you were the female version of Stephen Joyce. I mean that nicely, by the way. Mrs. Fix-It. You seem to be getting a lot of portfolios where you were basically told to fix things.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy that responsibility, or do you think, oh, give me a break, I don't need that portfolio, thanks?
Well, you serve at the pleasure of the Prime Minister, and it is very
That's a nice way to say it.
No, it is. You do what the Prime Minister asks. And I actually enjoy the challenge of fixing things. So it wasn't something that I dreaded. Sometimes it was nice to have a portfolio that you didn't have to fix things in. And there were some portfolios that were just were personally so rewarding to do things like Christchurch Regeneration. I mean, it's the city we all live in, and knowing what we needed to do to finish that job. But I enjoyed it and the challenge of it, but I also like some of the other portfolios where you could think about kind of some of the big picture kind of strategic stuff. But it's an amazing opportunity to serve as a minister, and it was one that I enjoyed every day.
When you had all those ministerial portfolios, what did you do to relax? I remember asking you, what do you do? Do you actually, I mean, obviously I know it's really hard to switch off, but what do you do to switch off?
Yeah, and
back then?
Well, I mean, there just seemed to be one thing after the other.
Because I don't think I've got any hobbies.
I think at
Personally.
one point I had to tell my staff in Wellington that I wouldn't be available on a Saturday for 2 hours. I had to inform them I was going to get a massage and that I wouldn't be available for these 2 hours. And look, there are periods of time when something's happening where it does. I mean, it is pretty much 24/7 between the job and sleeping, and there's not a lot of time for anything else.
You know what? Massage is so important. My mother said to me, because if you get a massage, say for an hour, you're forced to do absolutely nothing.
And your brain turns off too. Yeah.
No, my brain doesn't. I'm always thinking about what the next story or something. In fact, when I'm getting a massage, almost every time my cell phone goes and there's some breaking news story.
Leave your phone outside, Chris.
I can't.
Yeah, but one of the things I was going to say, one of the critical thing is your friends and family, particularly friends that aren't political, so that you can actually have some social time where it doesn't morph into talking about politics. And I've had an amazing kind of support network around me in terms of my friends and family.
Let me talk about one of the biggest, I guess when I was going to interview, I thought about two big events that happened, and that was when you were the Minister for MIQ.
Yes.
I was at News Talks FB, and I think you and I used a lot of dark humour to get through those periods because they were really uncertain.
Yeah, they were.
A lot of uncertainty around it, and I remember you were with a couple of, I can't remember now, Defence Force people that would come into the studio, and it was really bizarre times. What do you look back now? Do you look back now and think, God, what a waste of time that was? Or do you look back now and think, it is what it was, whatever?
Do I think we got everything perfect? No, of course not. There was no playbook. We were dealing with unprecedented times. When we were looking on our TV screens and seeing the mass graves that were being dug in cities around the world and the number of fatalities that we were seeing, I think that in New Zealand we were fortunate not to experience that level of suffering and death. I mean, I know that COVID was incredibly difficult, that families were separated, that people, I mean, I can't imagine this, people not being able to be with their parents or be there for burying family members, all that stuff incredibly difficult, but we did escape what could have been a very grim reality for us. And in those days, and I was doing MIQ right at the beginning, which was before there was even a vaccine. So it really was about making sure we were not letting the widespread spread of the virus into the country.
In a way, I feel like you escaped the divisiveness that came later.
Yeah, so I only did that to the 2020 election.
Do you look back now and think, oh, thank God I didn't have to do that?
Then poor Chippy took it over after me. But I remember during the 2020 election campaign being, and sometimes there's a threshold where you tell the Prime Minister that every day kind of bits and bobs that are going on, because if every minister was telling them everything in their portfolio should be overwhelmed. And I was sitting in a motel room in Invercargill with her, and my phone rang, and it was one of the Defence Force people that was helping do MIQ, so I just went into the bathroom to take the call. She could hear me saying, "What? They tied sheets together and climbed down the building?" I mean, and she looked at me and she goes, "Tell me you were just recounting the story of the Beagle Boys and that's not MIQ. No need to worry."
There were some really strange,
you
strange
look
stories.
back now and you think, oh my God.
Yeah. In fact, I look back now, some of the hotels I've been lucky enough to stay at across New Zealand, and it's terrible to say this, but when everything was finished and lockdown was over, I would start some of these hotels, I would recognise their name based on what I reported on. And now it's just nice that we're not having that.
Totally, yeah.
I want to ask you, be honest, was there a moment where you thought, I can't do Wigram anymore?
No, and I always wanted to make the decision before I did have that thought. That it had, I've 15 years this year that I've been the MP for Wigram. And
15 years?
15 years. I was first elected in 2011, at the end of 2011, so it's been a long time. And I'd always wanted to leave just before I was ready to. Before I started having those thoughts, and to do what I was talking about, which was actually kind of work with the next generation, make sure that we've got succession planning, that we're bringing through great young people, and that we are thinking about the next 20 years, the next 15 years for Wigram and what that looks like. I didn't want to get to be an MP that didn't want to bounce into my electorate office every day and, love my job. And I still want to bounce out of bed every morning and I love my job, but I don't want to risk not being that person.
I thought you were going to say, now I crawl out of bed.
No, it's still bouncing out of bed.
So you'll probably, whoever's in government coming up, this year, you'll probably still be in the Labour cabinet as such, won't you?
I'm putting myself for the list. It all depends, of course. The party has to put together its list, and that won't be till later.
Is it possible, though, that Chris Hipkins could put you further down, and then you may not even be in?
Chris Hipkins doesn't put together the list. He's part of it, but we have a whole process, you can only imagine, within our party, and all parties have that. So it's not the leader or the Prime Minister that decides that. It's the party as well. So the party will make its decision, and we won't know that till later in the year.
Let's just say you get out of politics completely, as in national politics. What would you do?
Look, I haven't actually thought that far ahead.
Mayor of Christchurch?
No. I would rather peel the skin from my body than be the Mayor of Christchurch. I can give you that.
You'd be a good mayor, though, wouldn't
I
you?
ran for the mayoralty of Christchurch in 2007, so that would be like nearly 20 years ago. I literally have been there, done that, and have the T-shirt.
Then tell me, what would your dream job be?
I haven't thought that far ahead. I will need to start turning my attention to that in the next few years, but at the moment, my dream job is being the MP from Wigram right through to the election.
You could come work for Chris Lynch Media and be a reporter.
I could. I reckon I'd be a good investigative journalist.
Good.
Yeah.
I think you'd be nosy enough.
I'd be absolutely 100% nosy enough.
I want to briefly talk to you about, no one's watching, don't worry, the different leadership styles and the different way we've got the two Chris's at the moment. You've got Christopher Luxon and Chris Hipkins. And I've got to say that even some of the Conservative audience members, I'd never say this, but I can tell that when I speak to Chris Hipkins, there is more of a sense of relaxation that comes with those interviews. Chris Hipkins seems more laid back than Chris Luxon. What is it about Chris Luxon, you think, that he doesn't resonate well on the media?
So, I mean,
I don't think that's, I think that's a...
Yeah, and I'm going to
fair
give you a
comment, isn't it?
considered answer,
Okay,
not a
well,
political,
don't be
not a
considered.
political answer. So, I mean, Chippy, Chris Hipkins is a friend of mine. He entered Parliament in 2008, I was 2011, so we're kind of around that same kind of cohort. So we've known each other for a number of years. I think one of the things that we see with Christopher Luxon is the lack of experience as a politician.
Can't that be sort of a good thing?
No, but in terms of the experience and the ability to deal with the media, when you're a Prime Minister, you literally have questions coming at you from every direction to be across everything and to take a brief on everything. We saw Jacinda did that amazingly well. We saw actually, I'm going to be non-political, John Key did that really well as well, that he could be across all that detail. Chris Hipkins certainly can be across all that detail, but I think we're really seeing some of that inexperience in the political environment and the knowledge that goes with it coming through. Also just how it is that you kind of manage some of those political arrangements, and we're seeing that very much, I think, in the coalition arrangements in terms of it really seems that people that had a much smaller majority of the vote are certainly having a disproportionate amount of influence.
Yeah, I think it's not an unreasonable thing to suggest that it does feel like Winston Peters and David Seymour are running the country.
That's right. Yeah.
I wonder if that's intentional though, in terms of Chris.
I think that's lack of leadership and lack of experience.
Tell me, when was the last time you had a day off?
So what is today? Today is Wednesday. I had a day off on Sunday.
What did you do?
I caught up with some friends. I went for a walk with a friend. I went round to a different friend's house for dinner. I did some housework, which is always good, and I did my groceries and my washing.
Sounds very exciting.
It was a really great day. Yeah.
Being in opposition, what have you missed the most?
Oh, the ability to make change. I think that's probably one of the biggest frustrations of opposition. I mean, it's the job of an opposition to both oppose but also to propose. What you do things differently when you're in government, that you can actually make those changes. You can actually look to think, what is the New Zealand I want in the next year, the next 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years, and you can make those changes.
Looking back on your political career, what do you want to be remembered for?
Actually, because I think the thing I would want to be remembered for is how I served the people who elected me, and that is how I'll be remembered as the MP for Wigram. Because I think first and foremost, you are the representative, whether or not you're in government or in opposition. That is the one thing that endures across a political career. And I'd like the people of Wigram to know that I served them with all my heart, with all my courage, and with all my energy.
Well, I'll let you finish your coffee and you can go get a massage if you like. They're
No,
important.
I've got more meetings this afternoon. No massage time. That might have to wait for a weekend day.
Megan, nice to see you. Thank you for your time.
Oh, it's been awesome. Thank you.